Alfa Romeo don't launch their car until tomorrow, so I thought today I would tell you about one of my favourite fun numbering facts in F1. No, it's better than I made that sound. Ciao friends and welcome to 2sex Ted. I promise I won't do this at the start of every video, but the channel has grown a lot in the last two videos. First of all, the Rich Energy video did really well, and then Tomo gave me a shout out on his video yesterday, which was absolutely amazing. So thank you again, Tomo, if you're watching, and if you've come from either of those videos, I hope you enjoy, I hope you stick around, and thank you. So, since 2014, the F1 numbering system for drivers and cars has been based on a permanent numbering system. Each driver gets to pick their own number between 2 and 99, and that number follows them through for, well, basically until they retire. Those numbers then can't be used again for a couple of years, and every year the champion, if they want to, can choose to run one the next year. So far, only one person has done that. It was Sebastian Vettel, who won in 2013. He opted to take one for 2014. Since him, there have only been two champions. Lewis, who stuck with 44 every single time, and Nico Rosberg, who retired before we knew what he would have picked. Maybe he would have stuck with 6, maybe he would have gone for 1, who knows. Those numbers do eventually get recycled, and for example, that number 6 that Nico Rosberg wore is currently used by Nicholas Latifi, who joined the sport obviously last year. Some drivers have very specific meanings behind the numbers they pick. Lots of them, it was just the first number they ever used in karting. Kimi Räikkönen, on the other hand, was asked to pick a number, and he just picked the number he was already using, number 7, because why change? Kimi Räikkönen's view on life is something I very much respect. The previous numbering system in F1 was based around championship order for teams. So the higher the number, the worse that car did in the previous season. So a very low number like 3, you know that team finished second in the Constructors' Championship. We skip 13 because it's considered unlucky in a lot of European cultures. Interestingly enough, in the new system, 13 has been used by Pastor Maldonado, who, to be fair, wasn't the most lucky of drivers. So the interesting quirk that comes up here is the fact that the number 22 won back-to-back championships. 22 being obviously quite a high number, which means that theoretically those teams were the worst, and therefore probably don't have any business winning the championship the very next year. In our case, the story starts with McLaren in 2007, who at that point had been one of the top teams. They won championships in 98 and 99 with Mika Hakkinen. They were one of the only teams who took the fight to Ferrari in the Schumacher days, right up until Renault won back-to-back championships with Fernando Alonso in 05 and 06. After 2006, Fernando Alonso left Renault and went to McLaren, where he was partnered with a young rookie by the name of Lewis Hamilton. Now, this is a team you don't expect to wear very high numbers on their cars in this system. You'd expect them to be right up the sharp end with single-digit numbers. But in 2007, one of F1's biggest controversies happened, known in this community as Spygate. I won't go into a ton of detail about this because it really isn't the video. I will link a video down below if you want a scripted content where someone has looked into this properly and not me just talking to a camera. If Aidan Millwood's video on that is up at the moment, I will link that one. But effectively, McLaren were caught stealing confidential documents from Ferrari to try and make their car better. The elected punishment that the FIA chose for this crime was to strip McLaren of all of their constructors' points, but let the drivers compete as normal. In 2007, of course, Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso ended up tied on points, tied 1 point behind Kimi Räikkönen, who actually won, but constructors' points are what decide the car numbers, and therefore McLaren scored no points and ended up last in the queue for new numbers. Fernando Alonso left the team, so Lewis Hamilton was partnered with Heikki Kovalainen. Heikki Kovalainen got number 23, Lewis Hamilton ended up with 22. The very next year, McLaren was still on form, still right up at the top of the championship. 2008 played out generally as a three-way battle that became a two-way battle between Kimi Räikkönen, Lewis Hamilton and Felipe Massa. Hamilton won the championship in Brazil on the last lap of the last race of the season, securing his first championship in his second year of Formula 1, and that entire time wearing the number 22 on his car. Supposedly one of the worst in the field. And it doesn't end there. As I'm sure you're aware, 2008 there was a major financial crisis, and this left some companies wondering if the F1 project was really worth continuing with, one of these companies being Honda. Slight economic downturn, Honda leaving the sport. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Ross Brawn, formerly of Ferrari, was in charge of Honda at the time. He ended up buying out the team, which ended up wearing his name the very next year, Brawn GP. But because Brawn GP was technically a new entrant, they ended up with the worst numbers from the bunch, because technically in 2008 they hadn't scored any points because they didn't exist. This meant that Rubens Barrichello ended up with 23 and Jenson Button wore 22 on his car, and as the famous story of 2009 goes, Brawn ended up winning both championships with the combination of some aero genius, a lot of Honda money, and a Mercedes engine strapped to the back. And a lot of talent from Jenson and Rubens, of course. So this meant that in 2008 and 2009, first time British champions won wearing the number 22, which is supposedly one of the worst numbers in that numbering system. Interestingly enough, in the new system, where drivers get to pick their own numbers, Jenson Button continued to use 22, and Lewis Hamilton picked 44, which is 2 times 22. So that is one of my favourite F1 numbering facts, because of course I have a favourite F1 numbering fact, because I'm a huge nerd. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope, if you haven't already, that you choose to subscribe down below, maybe turn the notifications on and like the video. Maybe drop me a comment telling me what number you would pick if you went into F1. Thanks, see you in a couple days.